Hello and welcome to part three of our LinkedIn overview for brands and for businesses. But let's go ahead and dig in. This is probably the meatiest part. This is the part that you won't see in a textbook, and it's the part that I have definitely diverted from the most when it comes to the courseware that I'd used previously. But here are some tips for not just companies, but I would also argue for people. I don't, yeah, there's nothing here that's really specific to one or the other. So, one, we're going to talk about carousel posts here in a minute. That's going to be the next slide. But um, really, you want to start your post with what is the most engaging thing that you have. You need a hook. If you were to ask ChatGPT to write you a LinkedIn post specifically, it's going to give you a post that's a couple of paragraphs. It's going to start with an emoji, maybe a lightning bolt emoji, an alarm emoji, the googly eye emoji, and then there's going to be a list, a bulleted list, but the bullets are going to be replaced by emoji check marks of some sort. And then there'll be a call to action at the end. But that is ChatGPT's way of writing a, a post that is engaging and really hooks you with the first sentence. Now, I I bet you it'll take you about 30 seconds to find a post that follows that format. And it's become really kind of the standard for company posts, when in reality, we know it's just people putting a bunch of information into ChatGPT and then posting whatever it spits out. But um, there's a lot more to it. One, I wouldn't do that because now you're outing yourself as using AI to write your posts. But then, second, you need to be sure to tag people or other company pages in your post because that's going to help spread your message a little bit further. And then if you're posting on a personal page, do not use links. A link is bad. A link's going to kill your post immediately. Think of LinkedIn and all the other social networks as companies for a moment. And a company is going to want, number one, like, how does a company make money? As we have seen with our Facebook and Instagram overviews, they make money through advertising. And how do you make money through advertising? By building a big user base, but not just using a user base that is always on your platform. If you put a link on a post on LinkedIn, on Facebook, you can't even on Instagram, or even on X, Twitter. If you put a link in a post that goes to another website, that means that you want people to leave. And do the social networks want you to leave? No, they absolutely do not want you to leave. So the algorithms are set up in such a way so that if it sees a link that leaves the website, especially a link that goes to a competitor, if you put a YouTube link on a LinkedIn post, you're going to be lucky if anybody sees that. If you put a LinkedIn post on a Facebook post, same deal. Um, or like a Wikipedia post, forget it. You know, all of these, the internet has become a battle of the elite corporations, and their algorithms are reflecting what they want user behavior to look like so that they can maximize their businesses. They will all say that they are done in the name of keeping you giving users what they want, but in reality, when you are thinking about the algorithm on LinkedIn or on any other platform, you really just need to think about how can you work within the confines of this company's algorithm so that my post can be seen by the most users and actually provide some sort of engagements. And the number one thing is to not put a link on there. Now, if you have a company page, from what I personally have seen, the link does not quite kill a post the same way that it does on a personal page. I think that is because links are so prevalent on company pages. And at some point, LinkedIn had to recognize, hey, we need companies here. We need them posting. And if we kill all of, like, at some point you've got to understand that companies aren't going to be doing anything on LinkedIn if they can't push their own message, right? If there's no point for them. And so links, I believe, are fine. Um, I personally have, obviously, like, an image post without a link is much better, is going to drive many more engagements. A personal post with a link, forget it. But a company post with an image and a link, I mean, I've seen some that have gotten hundreds and hundreds of likes and comments, all of these, but it really just kind of depends on, one, the message, but then two, what is the link going to? Yes, if your company posts a link to YouTube, it's still going to probably be dead on arrival. But if your company posts a link to your company's website, it should be fine. It's probably not going to do very well because nobody's going to care. But in terms of the algorithm, I don't think it's going to be terrible. Also, when you post a link on your company page post, the first thing that will automatically pop up is a link preview. There was a time also on Facebook and Twitter when you would post a link and you would see a big image from the article pop up. Then you'd see a little title or a description that was called the metadata. Since over the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years, all of those have been pretty much eliminated, to the point, not entirely eliminated, but link previews have been really reduced to almost nothing. So what I usually do is you can X out of the link preview and keep the link. What I do is I will replace it with an image. I'll just, save the image from the article and post it like a different type of link preview, or I'll add something else. In the last video, you saw a stock image of a girl looking at a computer when it was a post about professional development, right? That stock image wasn't on that link page. It was just used as a placeholder to replace it. So you always want to replace the link preview. Posts that leave the link previews tend to do a little bit worse, mainly because they just don't help, and the images are so small they don't really help anybody stop the scroll. Now, these last 2 points, I would argue, are the two most important. One, both company and personal pages, posting between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. In my very first video here on LinkedIn, I talked about the way that people use the platform. Less than 60% of LinkedIn usage is on a mobile device. That is pennies that's minuscule compared to all the other social networks. That is because people are more used to getting kind of situated at the office or at home or whatever online on their desktop computer or laptop or whatever. Then they go onto LinkedIn. When does that happen? Between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. I would say most of the time, I mean, on any social network, posting obviously in the middle of the night is probably bad. I would argue anytime after 1, 2, 3 p.m., you're probably going to be pretty limited in what your company page post is going to get back in terms of engagements. It obviously, there's sometimes you're never going to be able to avoid it. I ran into the same issue very recently where I was supposed to publish an announcement for a brand I was working with, and I didn't even get anything until 3 p.m. I still posted it, and it still did okay. But I was expecting this to be a massive announcement that would get a huge, huge, huge boost. Tons of engagements, like comments, everything. And instead, it was just average. And I think it's because it only really captured a fraction of the company's audience, which was largely online in the morning. A few years ago, I did a little study where I posted on LinkedIn every day for 90 days. And on the days when I posted between 8 a.m. and noon, which was about half the time, I got on average twice as many engagements as I did at any other time of the day. That was on my personal page, not a company page, but I believe it's really not even a factor of the algorithm. It's just the fact that people are most likely to be on LinkedIn in the morning. I'm sure, around noon is fine. Like if it's at like 12:01, whatever. People are online in the morning and around lunchtime. I just don't think there's as many people online on LinkedIn at the end of the day, and I really don't think there's anybody online at night. So um, that's the big recommendation there. And then finally, um, you may have seen the news on this over the last few years, but hashtags, they are decreasing in importance. On Instagram, they're still a thing. Yes. On TikTok, still a thing. Facebook, not a thing. LinkedIn, they are still a thing, but they are now a spam signal. That is because AI and bot posts on LinkedIn, they are more likely to use outdated social media best practices that include a slew of hashtags. And as a result, LinkedIn has marked that as a spam signal. I think one hashtag, you're fine. Two hashtag, you're in trouble. Three hashtags, forget it. Your post is dead. So when you are crafting a strategy for a company page or for your own personal account, do not utilize hashtags. One, they don't usually. I mean, one is the algorithm. That's a huge problem. But then also, you know, it's a very antiquated technology that started with Twitter in the late 2000s. It was a way for social networks to accumulate posts based on a similar word. Now we just call those keywords. It's we have reached the point where you search for a word on any social network and you'll see posts with that word. That was not the case in 2008, 2007, and that's when hashtags first kind of rose to prominence. Facebook followed suit. Instagram kind of took it to the next level. LinkedIn never really got into the hashtag game too much, but now we know that it is truly a deterrent. So um, that is a really big one. And I think most people, especially older marketers that are not as up to date with the trends and kind of what's working and what's not working, this can be a challenge. If, for example, I have a business that I work with, they have a marketing person who loves hashtags, and she asks me every time, why aren't there any hashtags on this post? And every time, at least on LinkedIn, I have to tell her, this is no longer a thing. This is something that is going to be more damaging to our post performance than helping it. So that's just kind of where we are here. And yeah, I mean, I just spent almost 15 minutes talking about this one slide. I'm going to leave it at that. And next up, we're going to talk about carousels a little bit more in depth. That's a really big driver of engagements. And hopefully, we can wrap up our LinkedIn playlist here in one or two more videos. Thanks.